Hey guys, today I am doing a solo episode of Dating Rehab with Anna Morgenstern. I actually am going to talk about something a little bit outside of dating as I've been on my fertility journey. I've been posting a little bit about it with you guys so that way you can kind of learn as I'm learning. Because the last 6 months that I've been doing this since January, I have learned so much through trial and error, and I'm still learning. I'm still not even at the end of it, but I wanted to catch you guys up for where I am today and all the things that I've had to do so you guys can learn from my mistakes. Hard times that I thought I was doing everything right, but I wasn't told different complications with things. That's why I'm at 6 months and I still am not at the transfer yet. So I wanted to start from the beginning because I wish I would have had this information going into it. I try to do as much research as I can, but sometimes listening to like the fertility doctors, they're telling you, do this, do that. It doesn't always apply for every situation. And what they don't tell you is like you could do everything right and still not have the results that you want to have. And so I just wanted to kind of share my story because I was always thinking that I was doing something wrong when reality, it takes two to tango. Your partner that's in this with you, they're half the equation when it comes to conceiving naturally. But then when you're doing IVF, it's really on the woman. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I hope that you guys will find what I'm sharing helpful and that you will have better results in your fertility journey from what I'm sharing. So really wanted to start from the beginning. I was 39 years old when I got married. My husband was 44. And we always just knew we wanted to have kids and didn't really think I would have much trouble. I always had really positive test results from doctors. They always said I have great egg reserve and high AMH. And I just never thought it'd be an issue for me to conceive naturally. And I have thought about over the years whether I should freeze my eggs. I had a lot of friends do it in their 30s. And then as I got into 35, when I started thinking of doing it myself, that's when I started having people around me try to utilize the frozen eggs that they had frozen years prior. And I really didn't meet anyone that was able to use the eggs that they had frozen. I met so many women that, for whatever reason, the eggs weren't viable and they weren't able to use them to create embryos once they had the partner. I'm sure that there are plenty of women that froze eggs or are able to use them. I have no doubt. And I think that's why they want you to do multiple rounds because they want to have as many eggs as possible. If even like one of them are viable, then it's better than nothing, right? But now that I'm looking on Instagram, I'm getting targeted all the fertility stuff. You'll see fertility doctors saying you should have frozen them in your 20s. And that's because that's when your egg quality is the best. Freezing in your 30s, it's still better than having nothing, I guess, because you can hopefully potentially use them later, but it's not really the insurance policy that we were told that it is. It's very expensive. You have to pay for the annual freezing fees, and there's no guarantee that these eggs will be viable. So just, I don't know, it seemed, I don't want to say it's a scam, but it didn't seem like it had enough science backing it that was really going to work in case I needed them later. And like I said, I'd never met a woman that used eggs that were frozen prior. And I'm sure you guys have, and that's great. But for me personally, I met many women that were not able to. Maybe if they froze the eggs in their 20s, it would have been different. But this is still kind of newish technology. Like I feel like keeps changing. More stuff is coming out. They're able to do more things, which is amazing. But for women like us, like millennials, I'm 40 now, science hasn't caught up quickly enough. So I didn't freeze my eggs because I didn't think I had to. I was always told I was so healthy. You just don't know. And then my husband, together, we were just not able to conceive naturally. That happens for some people. He had health issues when he was younger, and it just didn't happen for us. We tried since kind of the beginning we were together. So it was really like 2 years where we were not careful and nothing was happening. So after we got married, we decided to seek out fertility help. And, my husband and I were both entrepreneurs. We do not have the best insurance. I have Health First personally, and they don't really cover fertility stuff. They'll cover some medications, some exams, but the actual like IUIs or IVFs, they don't cover it. So the first clinic we went to, I was told my insurance said that they would cover it, but then I went to the clinic, did all the testing. They said, oh, they actually won't cover this because they've tried to do it with other patients in the past and the insurance always rejected it. So that was pretty frustrating because I went to one clinic, I went to Fernie. They did all the testing. I did all the blood and ultrasounds, and my insurance did cover that. So I was scared if I went somewhere else, would my insurance cover it again? But after going there and we weren't able to move forward with them because at that point, this was probably October 2025, I was thinking maybe start with an IUI. And that being said, like no one really gave us a lot of information of what should you do next if you're having trouble conceiving naturally. I was always told IUI is the first step and then IVF. So finally went to, there was a Jewish nonprofit called A Time that a lot of Jewish couples use to ask for help to conceive. They basically find you fertility clinics that are either subsidized by the government or private donors. So it makes it a little bit cheaper for couples to go through fertility treatment. And I had a lot of friends that use it for egg freezing and IVF and all these things. So I was like, sure, let's try that. And so I went to Premium Health in Brooklyn. It's in Borough Park, and I live on the Upper East Side. So it's, an hour 15 to get there one way. So we go there, we do all our testing, again, all the same testing, it's frustrating. We're in November now. Do all the same testing. And this is the first time that any fertility doctor really told us that the way things are, it would be really hard to get pregnant naturally, like less than a 5% chance. Even though, like, yes, I could have good AMH and, everything could be good on my side. It just wasn't going to happen naturally based on the results that we got from my partner's side and with us together. It just wasn't going to happen. And we asked about IUI because everyone's saying, oh, you got to do IUI for the first step. And he said, based on the results that he saw, we were not good candidates for IUI. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically taking the sperm, they wash it, they select the best quality, and they wait for your ovulation, and they literally turkey baster it inside of you at the exact moment for conception. And that does work well for some couples if, sperm quality is really great, woman's really fertile, and they're just for some reason having a timing issue or something's off there. Although they do still have pretty low success rates. I think they told us it's usually like 20%, something like low, where we're kind of like, okay. But in our case, it would have been like less than 5% chance of success. Or you might even said less than 1%. So that was good to know. We also, learned along the way it takes 20 million healthy sperm cells in order to get pregnant naturally. So if you're a man, you should really get your sperm tested because if you have less than that, you will most likely need some kind of fertility help in the future. And I know like a lot of the fertility stuff is put on women. I talk to so many men that say, I don't want to date over 35 because they will not need help with fertility, but it could be on the male side too. So I really recommend all men just get your sperm tested so you know your baseline and you can improve your results, which is the crazy part with diet, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. So based on that, we decided come January, we're just going to move forward with IVF. I was really hesitant to do IVF because the thought of pumping my body with hormones, it just sounded really intense. And I didn't know, I really didn't know what to expect. Women that go through it, they just are so happy to have the baby or they're so down and disappointed that it didn't work for them. It's hard to really gauge okay, what's the day-to-day like? And even now looking back at January, February, it feels so long ago. It's June now, but I do remember how tough it was on me because the very first thing you do with IVF is egg retrieval. So with the egg retrieval, if you've never done it, and if you have done it, I have so much more compassion for you because it is hard to function while you're injecting yourself every single day, 2 or 3 shots, 4 at the end. It's a lot. And the estrogen that I was taking, it made me feel like I gained 20 pounds. I was just kind of all over the place. It was emotional. I called my best friend when I was done with the egg retrieval and apologized to him because I knew that I was being a little testy with him. Because your emotions are all over the place. It's your hormones. With the egg retrieval process, I only did injections for, I want to say 6 or 7 days. It wasn't that long. A lot of women I spoke to said it was 10 days. Some said 2 weeks. Some said longer. But for me, as they were monitoring me, they saw the follicle growth and I was responding really well to the drugs. And so because of that, I only had to do it for 6 days, I think. So what does it entail? It's a lot of monitoring. You go into the clinic. And remember, I was going to Brooklyn. And this was in February during the coldest Arctic freeze that we've had in a long time. I was just schlepping back and forth. But you do your blood drawn, they look at your hormones through your blood, do an ultrasound to look at your uterus, to look at your ovaries, to see how many follicles you're creating. And when have enough follicles and they feel like, okay, we're ready to the retrieval, they have to get to a certain size. Then you get the trigger shot. That's when you ovulate. That's when your body's gonna be like ready to release the eggs. And then you go in for the procedure. And I really didn't realize you're under anesthesia. Like it is a real procedure. You go under, they go in, they take the eggs out, however they do it, and then you wake up and it's like, okay, it's done. Some people just said they were fine that day, next day, go back to work. For me, I definitely needed a day like that. The day I did the procedure, I was home. I definitely felt some cramping. I used a red light therapy, like just the mask on my face. I used it on my tummy. And I did the heated pad on my stomach too, just to kind of help tea. And then the next day, I felt better. And I wanted to share my egg retrieval results because I did a lot of things to prep for this and no one really talked to us. I picked up a couple of things from this friend, a couple of things from this Instagram post, a couple of things from the doctors and my acupuncturist I started going to. And I really think because I did all these things, I had better results than expected. And that being said, you could do all the right things and you could have bad results. I've talked to people that have had that situation as well. But I want to share with you everything that I did that beat the doctor's expectations of what they were hoping to get from me egg wise and what they actually got. So we did the initial consultation with the doctor. He said, based on my tests, my image levels, my age, everything, he said they should be able to get anywhere between 8 to 12 eggs at the egg retrieval. And they were able to get 20. And I mean, the doctor was really blown away. He was so impressed by the results. But really, I think it was me because I was working really hard to get my body ready to have the best retrieval possible because I did not want to go through it twice because I know many women that do it multiple times. So I just want to do everything I could to have a good result. And it was a lot of sacrifice, doing a lot of things. So I wanted to share that with you. So really, I mean, the best thing you could do is cutting out alcohol. And I had a friend, she was saying that her doctor said, oh, you can still drink during the retrieval, just have one glass a week or something like that. But it's really not worth it. Because when you think about like, what does alcohol do? Like it's inflammation, it's poison in your body, it's killing all the good microbiome that you have in your gut, all the bacteria. It doesn't do anything good for you. It's nothing positive. If you can just cut it out completely, that's what I would do. And that's what I did. It says it takes 90 days to make healthy eggs. So if you can do it 3 months out, that would be the best thing you can do. I did it probably like 2 months out, maybe a little bit more, but 3 months out would be ideal. If you've never read It Starts with the Egg, that's a really good book to read. And it talks about how it's a 90-day process of getting ready to be dropped during ovulation. So cutting out alcohol, 30 days would be ideal, but ASAP. This is an obvious one, but drugs, I mean, includes weed, if you're doing recreational, mushroom, whatever, all that stuff, anything that could be considered poison in your body, just cut it all out. I mean, even like taking like Tylenol and stuff, like I was really trying to be so clean, not taking anything over the counter, anything at all. It's poison in your body because you're really trying to reduce inflammation. That's so important when you're going through all this process. So cutting out alcohol, any kind of drug, prescription, whatever, otherwise, like just cut it all out. Then I started going to acupuncture. I started going like 6 weeks out because I really wanted to be as like little stressed as possible as I could be, just be so calm. And the acupuncturist, he gave me so many good tips because he specifically has worked with a lot of women in fertility, and you want to go to acupuncturist that has expertise in this field. I went to UN Acupuncture. It's 35 East 35th. Dr. Shan, he's amazing. If you start going like at least 6 weeks out, then he kept talking about like how you're like charging your body. Listen, I am a little woo-woo, but I do think like it did help me relax. And then he was giving me like practical tips of what I should be doing to help my body de-stress and to have better results in the egg retrieval. So one thing he said for me to do is every night before bed, because remember, this is the winter, it's February, it's freezing, to do a hot foot bath with like Epsom salts. It relaxes you so you get better sleep at night. Overall, helps the body and different organs. And he said it will help blood flow, which is very important for the egg retrieval process too. So I did hot foot baths every night with Epsom salts. Honestly, my husband loved it too. He got really into it. eating so clean. I mean, you should already be eating organic and clean and nothing processed. Like if it comes in a bag, especially a plastic bag, you shouldn't be eating it. And that's still something that I'm working towards. It's really difficult and I've gotten better. Like now, if I want bread, I'll bake my own. If I want pasta sauce, I'll make my own. I've gotten really deep down this, but what you eat is so important. And, pesticides, all that stuff, it's just not worth it. So organic only is baseline. Like I've been doing farm to people boxes. I'm supposed to be getting one any minute today. And basically, they have different farms in New York. They're all organic. They get sent to you. It's different options of fruits and vegetables. And they have meat and poultry and fish and stuff that you can order as well. And it's great quality. And that's really inspired me to cook more and to get more creative in the kitchen. So I've been eating like super, super, super clean. And that was a big part of my egg retrieval process, eating clean. And then doing red light therapy just on my lower abdomen. I did it every night for 20 minutes. And again, it's like just to reduce inflammation. And that also felt really good when I was doing, the shots, but just wanted to create like a really warm, loving environment. And I mean, again, like I said, I'm a little boo-boo, but every night before bed, I literally prayed. I mean, I believe in God, so I pray to God. You can pray to the universe, higher power, whatever it is, put energy out there that I really wanted this to go well. I was ready to be a mother. You have to change your lifestyle. If you're still partying all the time and living like a single person and you're not showing the universe that you want this for yourself, then I do think that changes the results. Like I think you need to put it out there that you're willing to sacrifice. You're ready for this next step in life. And I was just praying, putting energy out there that I'm ready for this. I really want this. I think all those things combined, I had better results in my egg retrieval. Living a plastic-free life was really important. If you guys haven't seen the documentary that was on Netflix all about detoxing from plastics, I mean, it's a huge cause of infertility in people. So like even like my toothbrush, I changed toothbrushes. I use Surrey now, which is plastic free. Dish brushes, plastic free now. Only glass Tupperware, not using like cling wrap or, plastic bags. If your food is in plastic, you could be getting microplastics from it, plastic water bottles, all that kind of stuff. Never heat food in plastic. If you get takeout, it comes in a like plastic, it's hot food in there. That's really bad for you. Try not to get takeout from places that serve in plastic. So think about all these things. Like it takes a big conscious effort to make some of these changes. So those are all the things I did for the egg retrieval. And like I said, they were hoping to get between 8 and 12. They got 20 eggs. So from there, they take your eggs and they take the sperm from your partner and they fertilize the eggs. And out of the 20 eggs, I think they said 14 were able to be inseminated. So they watched to see if they turn into real embryos. Day 5, they check to see which embryos are ready for genetic testing. You can opt out of genetic testing if you don't think it's something that's necessary for you. My husband and I both did a genetic screening in our blood test to make sure that we didn't have any crossover for the same kind of carriers, diseases or genetic things that you could have. And as a Jewish couple, Jews do tend to carry one or two genetic issues that could pop up when you have a child together. So fortunately, we didn't have any crossover. So then from there, we had to wait and see. Genetic testing, it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So I think after 2.5, 3 weeks, we found out that we had one embryo that definitely we could use. It passed all the genetic testing, and they were able to get enough sample from the embryo to test everything you need to test. Then they had one other embryo that they were not able to get enough genetic material to test it properly. So we don't know if it's genetically normal or anything about it, which is very disappointing because the more take a sample out of an embryo, it degrades that embryo. So we really wanted to be very thoughtful about what we do with that. So we decided to kind of let that stay frozen for now and work with the one embryo that we have. So then there's more testing for the woman. So you have to do a saline ultrasound where they check your uterus because they want to make sure that the environment that the embryo is going to be placed in is going to be as perfect as possible. So if there's any scar tissue or if there's any lumps, bumps, cysts, things like that, that you get rid of those first. So your embryo has a better chance of sticking, so they say. So I did the saline ultrasound and I did it 3 times. The reason I had to do it 3 times is the first time I did it, it was because you have to do it at least 2-3 days after your period ends. And I did it like the day my period ended. So it was a little too soon. and they saw had some tissue in there. They're like, this is probably just from like your period ending, but we can't be certain. So you have to do it again. So it's like, okay, whatever. How they do it, they pretty much take like a catheter thing and they pump saline water into your uterus to make it kind of blow up so they could see it like big. And they can see all the lining around it. And so it's not really that painful. It's just a little uncomfortable. And it's literally like a waterfall when it's over because all the water has to come out of you. So it's just a little bit of a funny thing. So the second time they did the test, they said that they saw like a little bit, some kind of tissue still, and that it wasn't perfect. It was like 98% perfect, but there's still like a little bit of something. And so they recommended I do a hysteroscopy, which is basically them taking a camera to look inside your uterus to really know for certain that there's nothing in there that could be damaging to the embryo. I didn't really want to do that procedure because remember, I have to pay this out of pocket because my insurance is not going to cover it. But it sounded like something I didn't really need. But again, I didn't really know. We decided to do another saline ultrasound. And again, it comes back like almost perfect, but just a tiny bit in one little area. There could be a little bit of something. And they're like, could be a polyp, it could be nothing. We want you to do a hysteroscopy. And speaking to the doctor, he was saying, since we have this one embryo that we can for sure use, if we had like 6 embryos, like it doesn't matter. Like we would say like, all right, just do the transfer. But because we really have one to work with, they want to be extra certain. And they said women, usually over 40, they tend to do the hysteroscopy because they want to make sure that, it's the best environment possible. And my acupuncturist said, be careful because once they start poking around inside of you, like it could cause more problems. It could cause problems that weren't even there to begin with. So I was really nervous about doing it. So the third ultrasound again wasn't exactly perfect. So I kind of got guilted into doing the hysteroscopy. I didn't want to be selfish. Like, I don't want to do this test, but it's not what's going to be best for this embryo. So I decided to do it. And you can either do it at a doctor's office or you can do it at a hospital. I made the mistake. I did it at the doctor's office because they said, oh, it's going to be like a 2-month wait if you wait for the hospital. And so they kind of pressured me into doing it at the doctor's office. I did this with NYU. So I was like, okay. And they said, it's going to be uncomfortable. We'll give you laughing gas. So that way you can kind of distract yourself from the pain. And I hadn't done laughing gas since I was a child, like getting my teeth cleaned, like we all did when we were little. I was like, okay, this is going to be fine. They said it's like a 10, 15-minute procedure. It's not going to be crazy. So I said, okay. Although at the hospital, they will like actually sedate you. So you like don't remember, see anything. You don't feel anything. So it would have been better. So when I went to the doctor's office for the hysteroscopy, I started on the laughing gas and I really didn't like it. Like I did not feel good from it. I don't like feeling so high, like my head's going to blow off my neck. And I wasn't feeling it. So I was kind of not doing it enough. So then when they took this like huge metal thing, basically what they use when you get a pap smear, so to open you up and then they put the camera inside, and they're like digging around in there, taking photos. And then they said, take a biopsy to make sure there's no inflammation or anything going on in there that could be dangerous in the uterus. And that was freaking painful, let me tell you. Like between the laughing gas was awful and the procedure was awful. It was like traumatic. Like I'm still PTSD from that experience. Like if you do the hysteroscopy, definitely do it at a hospital. And I look over when it's done, it's like all these bloody tools and equipment. It was just awful. And when I got the results back, they're like, everything looks good. It's clean. But there was one thing, I think it was called like CD 138. There was one test that they forgot to do. And so I had asked them to make sure they asked the lab to really test for this. And it turned out it was called a rare positive, where out of 100 cells, only a few were positive with inflammation in my uterus. So most likely it was nothing. They said it could have been eating gluten that morning or having bad sleep, like a little like inflammation come from so many different things. But because we're doing this for fertility reasons, the doctors treat it like it's a real positive, even though it's not really a real positive. So I had to take antibiotics, doxycycline, for 2 weeks, which I really do not like being on antibiotics. It's not good for you. It's really bad for your microbiome. And yeah, and that again delayed us. Every month I felt like another delay. Because I had to go through the 2 weeks of the antibiotics before I had to wait for my next period and then, be ready for a transfer. And in that time frame, they kept putting me on and off birth control so they can control my period because everything revolves around your period. So to do the egg retrieval, it revolves around your period. To do the saline ultrasounds revolves around your period. Everything revolves around your cycle. And so to control it, so they can do the certain tests they want to do when they want to do it, they give you birth control to do for a week, sometimes two, and then you get off, then go, and I hadn't been on birth control in maybe a decade. And oh my gosh, the cramps that I got from birth control, I I will never be on it ever again. It was so, so painful. I remember I was at an art show with my husband and I was just like doubled over with pain from cramps. And I was like, what is going on with me? I threw up in the bathroom, which I never do that. And I asked my friend ChatGPT, what the hell is this? And they said, yeah, like sometimes because of all the hormones I was taking, getting on the birth control can trigger really bad cramps to the point where you feel nauseous and it's like debilitating. And all you have to do is take Advil and it makes it go away, which is like crazy. So I couldn't go anywhere without Advil. And that would happen during the first 3 days of my period. So that was like another thing that I went through that was really tough. I had to cancel plans. I felt really bad, but I could not function when I was on my period, at least those first like 3 days. So that's one thing to know. If they make you go on birth control, try to avoid it. So finally, I'm cleared for everything, ready to do a transfer. I'm so excited. No more tests, everything's done. And you have 3 options for a transfer, which I didn't know that until after not being able to do the transfer this month. I wanted to do a natural transfer versus a medicated transfer. And they didn't even explain this back then, but a medicated transfer, you take estrogen, progesterone, they really control your cycle from beginning to end. So, you know, before you ovulate, you're taking all these medications. They give you the trigger shot so you ovulate, they do the transfer. And even after the transfer, you still have to take these medications. It could be a couple weeks of taking all of these shots, suppositories, progesterone suppositories, and shots and like estrogen patches, like however your doctor wants to do it. But it is a lot. And they didn't even say that at the beginning, but I just kind of like didn't want to go through all the medication again. I really wanted to do it naturally. So I chose a natural cycle. And they told me same exact results. If a transfer is done naturally or medicated, everything's exactly the same at the end. There's no difference with the embryo sticking or not. So the natural cycle, you go in for monitoring more. So I remember going back and forth to Brooklyn. They're again doing blood ultrasound because after your period ends, as you're gearing up towards ovulation, they want to get the exact moment before you start ovulating. And they do that by looking at your hormones and measuring the follicle that you're naturally growing inside your ovary. Problem is, I'm 40 now, so maybe that's part of it, but you might not have a regular cycle. And then they knew that going into like sometimes I'm 23 days, sometimes 26 days. Like my cycle is not completely 100% normal and predictable. So because of that, they missed my ovulation window. I went in one day and they thought, okay, like the follicle's still a little bit too small to be considered ready for ovulation. So I went in the next day. They saw I was already ovulating and it was too late because at that point I would have had to take the right progesterone. They have to count the exact days. It has to be the embryo transfer has to be done 5 days after you ovulate to mimic the 5-day embryo in order for it to stick to your body and the embryo. They have to think like everything is natural and normal. If you're off by a day, if the hormones aren't right, the embryo won't stick and the transfer will fail. So that's why we couldn't do the first transfer, which was really, really disappointing. I was really excited for it. I felt ready and weren't able to do it because they missed the window. Is it their fault 100%? I don't know. I feel like I knew I was going to be ovulating on a certain day, but they wanted to, do the testing themselves. So I don't know. But what I didn't know, what they didn't tell me, is I wish they would have mentioned this before I chose which transfer I wanted to do. There's a semi-medicated transfer where you take letrozole, and basically that helps control the follicle growth. So they can see with this medication the natural growth of follicle, and they have more control, and then follicle will grow in a more natural way. Which I should have taken that from the beginning since my cycle wasn't totally normal or regular. But anyway, that's my plan for the next transfer that we do. Like I said, I'm still not at the end of it. I just wanted to share with you everything that I've learned so far. Another thing, I want to talk about nutrition. I was reading 9 Months That Matter. I was listening to Jessie, I forget her last name, but she was on Dr. Mark Hyman's podcast talking about pregnancy nutrition and glucose and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that was noted was just quit caffeine. That caffeine can cause a miscarriage, which was really scary. So cutting out caffeine before you're doing the transfer, I think is going to be important, definitely during and after. Another thing she said is there's so many things that when we're pregnant as women that we can control the development of the embryo into a baby, into what kind of human he's going to be. things with like mental health issues, ADHD, if they're going to be more prone to be obese later in life or have more muscle mass, is all about what we're eating during pregnancy. Like high protein is super important. Getting choline from eggs, liver from animals. I'm Russian, so I can eat chicken liver. I don't mind that. But there's a lot of different ways you can get choline, but eggs are a really easy one. Cutting down on sugar, glucose. And if you're going to have something that's sweet, do it with something that's like fat or, that has protein. So if you want some chocolate, eat it with Greek yogurt, things like that. The book has a lot of great recommendations, and obviously no alcohol whatsoever during pregnancy. It's really not worth it. Even if you have a little bit of wine, even though like you might only feel like a little tiny buzz, the baby might get drunk inside your room and it's going to stay with the baby for a lot longer. So you just don't want to mess with that whatsoever. It's not worth it. But yeah, she has a lot of great recipes, a lot of good ideas from the book. Highly recommend that. I've just been reading that now. I hope all of this has been helpful. I will keep you updated on how my progress goes. There's just things that I wish I would have known, because looking back, I would have done some things differently, but it is what it is. If you have any personal, questions you want to ask me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share, and hope you guys found this useful. Wish me luck.